just starting the stream a bit earlier and we'll get officially started in about a minute's time. My name is Chris Knapp and I am the Community Engagement Librarian at the Prince George Public Library in Prince George, British Columbia. And so I'll be here today, as you can tell by the screen, to talk about the Nintendo Switch. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the first of hopefully a long gaming series called Intro to Gaming in Libraries. So my name is Christopher, and I am a community engagement librarian here in Prince George, British Columbia. And so, been a lifelong gamer. I've been gaming since I was about 5 years old. Started with the Sega Genesis, and have been gaming ever since. So from the N64 to the GameCube to Xbox to PlayStation of every kind. Um, I've been a really avid gamer and very passionate about wanting to see video games in libraries. So I started as a librarian about 3.5 years ago now, and one of the key programs I started, uh, I refer to as Tens to Teens Gaming. And it started off with the Wii U console, but then as the Nintendo Switch came out, as I'm highlighting today, uh, I decided to shift over, and as soon as I did, the marketability, the approachability of this console really branched out and reached a larger audience. So I will give credit to some of the sources that I will be using today. So all the clips that we're going to be watching today have been pulled from YouTube. And so the first one is going to be focusing on the hardware of the Nintendo Switch, and this is published by Nintendo. The second one is highlighting some very awesome co-op games, and that is done by Eurogamer. And then the last video is just highlighting more of the Nintendo Switch and published by Nintendo themselves. Right, so without further ado, we'll get started on the hardware video and go from there. And so please feel free if you have any comments and want to add them to the chat. Um, I am happy to answer questions. I want this to be a back and forth discussion. All right, and so without further ado, let's get started. So as you can see, this is the portable aspect of the Switch. So when doing programming at the library, often you'll have it docked, but there is a potential to take it out of its dock um, and play anywhere. Now in this highlight feature, you'll see that the two controllers come off. So the controllers themselves are referred to as Joy-Cons. When you get the Nintendo Switch, they'll automatically come with two of them. But going forward, if you're wanting to run any sort of library programming, you're going to want at least 8 of those, as that accounts for the max amount of players that you can have in games like Smash Brothers um, or even Mario Kart, Towerfall at any given time. These will be games that I'll talk about later on. So, USB is the medium that this uses. It may not be cords that you have readily available in the library, but about any USB-C cord can charge the Switch if it's low on batteries and you can't find a dock. The tabletop mode is very helpful. So if you don't have a TV or a projector to hook it up to, tabletop is a comparable option. Again, you probably want to be in the room for that, just to keep a close eye on the system. Here it's highlighting that you can connect 8 consoles or different Switch consoles together. At our library, we have 2 Switch consoles, and so often we will connect the consoles online rather than locally, but the option is there. You'll also note that motion controls are one of the key features of the Joy-Con. Not every game will have motion controls to them exactly, but games, as was highlighted by ARMS, are ones that really highlight the motion control of the system. Mario Kart, if you've ever played the Wii version of it, so similar to, you can use the Joy-Con for tilt control and to drive around. So amiibos are just accessories and that you can use alongside the console. Um, as you'll note, with the system itself, um, there are multiple sticks, and when twisted to the side, you'll see the 2 miniature buttons up top. So those replace the shoulder buttons up top of the controllers if you have it twisted sideways. And of course, there are wrist strap attachments that you can attach on that will allow you to use the buttons more easily. So that was just a brief introductory video to the Nintendo Switch console itself. And so before we get into co-op games, um, by the Daily Dot on this one, my apologies, corrections for the Eurogamer article. Uh, the co-op game segment is done by the Daily Dot. But with the Nintendo Switch console, as we have here, you'll notice some highlights that I will point out. So the controllers themselves, if you look at the back of the console, can easily detach. So by pressing the black button there, it simply comes off. And then when you want to put them back on, it is just a track on the Switch console itself and the track piece over here. You just slide back into place with that very distinctive click. Um, the screen itself is not very big, so this is why I always recommend having something along the lines of the television that you can hook it up to. It just brings out the image a little bit more, and a projector screen is perfect for that, as the console is limited to putting out only a maximum of 1080 p in terms of resolution, so it can't do 4K like the newer consoles such as the Xbox or the PlayStation. A projector is absolutely perfect for getting the resolution and for displaying the game um, as it should be. Another few key features to make note of. Um, Again, on the back of the console, to put it into tabletop mode, you want to pop this piece out, and it allows you to simply rest it on the tabletop. But more importantly, within this section, you have the micro SD card slot. So an uncommon memory card type. So often it is um, SD cards fully that are used. This one uses the micro SD. In my particular console, I have a 400 gigabyte one. Uh, Admittedly, it is a bit excessive, and I will admit, uh, anything larger than about 256 is only if you can see yourself using the Switch for storing a library of digital titles that are in the hundreds. For example, on my particular console itself, I probably have about 200 games installed, whereas our library copy of the Switch, so this one is my personal one I have here. But for our library copy, we simply have 128 gigabyte cards in each one. 128 is more than enough to have in any Switch console and will last you its lifetime. And on our Switch consoles at the library, we have about 2 dozen games installed at the moment, and 128 gigabyte cards and 256, if you keep an eye open for sales, are usually relatively cheap. So I am up in Canada with our Monopoly money, but often you can get a 128 card for within the $40 range. And 256, if you keep an eye out on a good sale, can often come in at about $50 or $60. And again, once you have a 256, you'll never need another memory card again. That is more than ample for the Switch to use. And so, again, as I'm going along, if you do have any questions, please feel free to put it in the Twitch chat, and I can respond to the questions as they come up. So, moving forward, we want to talk about games. So, the Nintendo Switch has been out for about 4 years now, so it came out in March of 2017. And of course, with that, it means that there are a plethora of games to play. So I will play this video now, highlighting some of the co-op games that you can expect to see, and then I'll highlight a few of the titles that we have at our library that have done really well in terms of programming. So these are just a few co-op games that you can install, and we'll watch just a couple of minutes of this before moving on. So Luigi's Mansion is a good title. Overcooked is also another fantastic one. Minecraft, if you're not familiar with it, is one that many of your teens or tweens will know by heart. And it's actually a fantastic educational tool to use. Kirby is a classic go-to as well. And so this particular one, because it allows for 4 players, is a great one to use in any sort of program, and it's cooperative. This is what I really love about the Nintendo Switch console, is a lot of their multiplayer games encourage cooperation rather than versus competing against one another. Um, Castle Crashers is another one, a little more cartoony. So if you've ever seen work by the Oatmeal, these are the folks behind it. So uh, meant for a more older audience than I would say young children. So one of those ones to do with adults or older teens in terms of programming. Now, Towerfall. This one was a hidden gem within my library. So after playing many rounds of Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, I one day purchased Towerfall on the whim. It often goes on sale for about $5, and I introduced it to my gaming group, and they absolutely fell in love with it. As you can tell, very simple pixel art, and the premise itself is very simple. You're going around, and all you have to do is shoot arrows at one another. The arrows get stuck in the wall, and you can go pick up the arrows that another player has wasted in trying to shoot at you, and then you can go after them. So, a fun little competitive multiplayer game. Boomerang Fu is also another one that I have recently picked up and have played with friends. So I haven't had a chance to play it with library patrons as we are in the midst of a lockdown. But again, another fantastic one to use with a group of teens who are just looking for a simple game, nothing too complicated, not too much to follow on the screen. Um, and so, uh, Minecraft will be the last one before I pause the video and discuss in depth a few more games. But Minecraft has been around for about a decade now, so definitely a generation of teens and tweens will know exactly what this game is and what it entails. It's up there in popularity with Roblox, and very easy game to approach. It's a building game. and you can do whatever you want. The sky's the limit, literally, um, with what you can build and what um, you can do. Uh, Minecraft I have often found is a great educational tool. It's a great game that I will open my gaming season or my programming season with, and then introduce slowly more complicated and difficult games. Um, Other games that I will highlight. So, if you are looking at starting a Nintendo Switch collection at your library, um, some of the advice I have, you can certainly never go wrong with first party Nintendo games. When I say first party, I mean anything directly published by Nintendo. So you'll see directly on the case itself, it'll say the Nintendo right at the very bottom. Um, these games often tend to be very family friendly, um, often with a ESRB rating between everyone through teen, and these titles are very approachable. So we're talking about classic titles such as Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Kirby, as we just saw, and Yoshi. And a lot of these games inherently are multiplayer focused. So whether it's aiming for 4 players maximum, like you saw in Kirby, or upwards of 8 players, like you would see in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, um, all of these games present a great opportunity to help drawing in a teen audience who may be reluctant to come to programming to begin with. Often I have found once I have something like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart up on the screen, those who normally wouldn't attend library programming have had their attention caught by these video games. So, uh, a list that I've produced of games include Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as I've talked to, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So this is a multiplayer driving focused game. Uh, Anything Mario Brothers. So there's Super Mario uh, Bros. Wii U Deluxe on the console. There's also Super Mario 3D World. Both of these games allow up to 4 players. The Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe favors a side-scrolling, so flat plane. You're moving left to right with your character, whereas 3D World is sort of a bird's eye view, and you're looking down and following the characters. There is a fixed camera, but both of these games encourage a more cooperative nature to them and working together. Though it's not to say that there won't be antics that happen. As I talked about in the video, some of the indie games that I've really enjoyed playing with youth have included Towerfall. So again, a game that often goes on sale for about $5. Another one is called Crawl. So this one is definitely a unique take. I always like to play it around Halloween, and so you're playing as ghouls and monsters. So an interesting take on the 4 player cooperative experience, and you are going around, and it is your job to sort of go around and slay other monsters. Um, Now, as you're going around and taking care of these monsters between each round, you'll have the opportunity to power up, and it's been a very delightful experience. Other multiplayer games that I will highlight include Just Dance. Uh, every year, Just Dance comes out with a new title around October or November. So this year's Just Dance 2021 is the newest title. This one is a particularly special title because I like using this one when I don't have enough Joy Cons. So when our library first got the Nintendo Switch and we were limited to about 4 Joy-Con, um, I wanted multiplayer games that didn't necessarily rely on having the controllers there directly to play multiplayer. And so Just Dance allows you to use your phone, downloading the Just Dance app on it to allow you to play multiplayer. And so once you have the app downloaded on your phone, all you need to do is connect it to the Switch. So they both need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. That's the only catch. Um, and then players can just join in and dance along. So if you are just starting your Nintendo Switch collection at the library and you're using it for programming, but find yourself with not enough Joy Cons, Just Dance is a fantastic title to use. I would not hesitate to explore websites like IGN or going to Reddit. There are definitely a number of subreddits on the Nintendo Switch that can offer great recommendations for multiplayer games. Also, do not hesitate to visit your local game stores, whether it's an EB Games or a GameStop or your local mom and pop shop. Often, the people there have a wide range of expertise. They also interact with a lot of the audience that you'll be wanting to draw into your library programming as well. And so taking game suggestions from them is a great opportunity to learn more about building a collection. And again, do not hesitate to enter questions into the chat, or if you want to follow along, um, I do have in the Facebook column more information there, and I will also upload more information on my Twitch channel connecting to my Discord, where I can publish game lists and recommendations for the Nintendo Switch. Um, so, moving on to our next video. So, this is examining the Nintendo Switch Online service. And so, if you're wanting to play online and do any sort of multiplayer that isn't locally based, games like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, and Super Mario Bros., if you're not playing locally on one console with four controllers, will require you to have an online subscription. Now, again, this is based in Canada, but it is a very cheap service. So compared to Xbox or PlayStation, the Nintendo online service is only $25 a year. And so it gives you access to things like the Super Nintendo and Nintendo Entertainment System applications, which offer fun throwbacks to retro games that we may have grown up with. I know I certainly did. And so some of these do offer multiplayer experience as well, so up to two players. Um, I know some of my teens have had an absolute blast playing games like the original Mario Kart or Super Mario World, for example, and seeing the origins of where some of their favorite games have come from. It also allows for cloud saving. So once your Nintendo Switch is connected to the internet, and if you have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, it will back up your save data automatically. So should anything happen to your Nintendo Switch console, um, this gives you the opportunity to get that save data back. Oh, sorry. I bumped the controller by mistake. And so the smartphone app is one to use if you are wanting to voice chat with other players online. Ideally, you'll probably be all playing together in the same room, or I prefer using things like a dedicated Discord channel that I then share with my team participants, um, as I find a lot more of them have access to applications like Discord than they would say the Nintendo Switch Online service. And so the Nintendo Switch Online service is just an extra facet to add on if you are starting a collection, but is not a necessity. As I'll be talking about over the next 2 weeks when I'm examining the Xbox and the PlayStation systems to add to a gaming collection if you're starting one. Um, their systems require online subscription for a lot more of their multiplayer titles. Um, and I find compared to the Nintendo Switch, and this is why I've started with the Nintendo Switch and why I argue the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic console to start with, is because the console itself inherently uh, favors local multiplayer. So just the ability to play off of one console with one game in it and taking off the Joy Cons, passing it to a player, and playing along. So, uh, the last thing I will end on is the portability of the console and some of the accessories that I have found helpful to have um, going forward. So, uh, the console itself comes as you see it. So, it comes with the base console, two controllers. An SD card is something that you will have to get separately. Um, but outside of that, oh, as well as the dock and connector cables needed. But outside of that, some of the accessories I have found very helpful. Um, well, first off, include the Joy Cons. So I would definitely recommend at least getting 2 to 3 sets of Joy Cons, so you can have upwards of 6 controllers. If you know that you're going to have a large audience who want to play games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which does allow for up to 8 players to play at the same time on the same console, then you can explore the options of getting 3 additional sets on top of the initial set of Joy Cons that you get with the console. Uh, there is the option of going with Pro controllers. So the Pro controller, um, uh, I can provide a quick example if you just give me a moment. So the Pro controller itself looks very similar to this. So as you can see, for example, this is an Xbox controller, and so side by side, you'll notice that they have very regular similarities. Uh, this one I find very helpful as an individual to play with, but in terms of library usage, um, Canadian, these cost $100 each, so it is a costly expenditure to have if you're just starting off your collection. Um, but again, I find this much more versatile. It allows for easier control and grip in games. I find it holds better in the hands, and it's suited for uh, well hands that teenagers, tweens, and adults would have. So for very small children, I would still suggest the Joy-Con over the Pro controller. Um, but it just allows for a more comfortable grip otherwise, and the durability. So this particular one I've had for about a year and a half, but I also still to this day have my original Pro controller that I got when the console released 4 years ago, and it has held up. So I've dropped this controller. It's traveled across the country with me and on many flights um, several times before, and there's been no issues. So certainly, if you're looking at the long term and are wanting to invest in this console for the next 4 to 5 years, if not longer, I would certainly say it's worth investing in the Pro controllers. Just do keep in mind they can be a bit costly. So certainly keep an eye open on sales. Often you can get them for usually about $20 off if there's a good sale. Um, as well, the portable nature of the console lends itself to being easily moved around. Um, while the dock can be a bit bulky, there are other items that exist out there. So if you Google and research Genki, so Genki, I have found that they have been a great company that really cater and favor to portability. So right now, um, a bit of shameless self promotion for their product, but the video is being played using the Genki Shadowcast, which allows for game streaming, all within the compact form of what looks like a USB drive. But more so, they have a covert dock, so the Genki covert dock, um, which is an all-in-one accessory about this large. So it looks like your average plug-in that you would have with a Nintendo Switch console. However, built into this thing is the ability to not only power the Switch but also run the HDMI signal through. And so this is a device that I've brought with me traveling many times, but I've also found it very helpful for when I'm doing outreach programs with the library. So rather than having to bring along the dock and potentially risk the chance of damaging it or losing it, I bring along this Genki dock, and it provides me the opportunity to simply just find an outlet in the wall to plug it into. And from there, I just run the HDMI cable into a projector that I may have, or a television screen if I'm visiting a school or another youth space that isn't the library. And it's a fantastic device to have. Because of the portable nature of the Switch, I would definitely say it's, if you are starting from scratch and are looking to pick up a first time console uh, for your library, the Nintendo Switch is a good place to start. Um, it's a fantastic console to have for outreach. It's a fantastic console to have for in library use. And Nintendo does have the brand reputability. Nintendo is a name that even non gamers and gamers alike will know and have fond memories of. And of all the consoles, and this is not to say that Sony and Xbox do not have family-friendly titles, because certainly within the past decade they've made strides to ensure that there's more diverse range of titles, and I'll talk about some of those in the weeks to come. The Nintendo Switch is a guaranteed console that will have accessible, multiplayer-focused, family-friendly titles that you can use for any age. So not just for those who may be teens or tweens. So feel free, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat now um, as I wrap up the stream. If not, feel free. I will be uploading this on YouTube. And again, you can follow me on either Facebook, where you can find me under uh, the name Chris the Gaming Librarian, or on Discord, um, where I will upload on my Twitch channel my Discord information, where you can join along. I'll be uploading um, game suggestions and recommendations on there on a regular basis. And if you have any questions, you can also post them there. So I thank you for coming out. And if you have any recommendations, I will admit this is my first stream ever. So I'm starting new, but hoping for big things to come from this. So if you have any recommendations, please feel free to toss them my way. And don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe and follow along. This helps give me an idea of how large my audience is and what information is needed. And so thank you for coming out this evening to my first session. I hope you have a great night, and I will see you next week if you are wanting to follow along in the intro to gaming in libraries, where I will be discussing the Xbox uh, ecosystem, so the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X. If you want to follow along on Friday evenings um, from 9 p.m. onward, I will be doing sort of let's play series where I will just be streaming some of the games that I'm playing. This Friday is looking like it's going to be Mass Effect as part of the Legendary collection that is coming out this Friday. And then if you want to follow along on Monday evenings at 7 o'clock, uh, I will be reviewing new games. So next week's focus will be a double header. So I will be reviewing both Resident Evil Village, so Resident Evil 8 in the series, and I will also be discussing the Mass Effect uh, Legendary Collection that is coming out this Friday. All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm the gaming librarian, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you, and signing off.